Hi, I'm John from off-road.cc and this is the all-new Lauf True Grit. Lauf, you might know from their previous work with their forks, so they basically use these little kind of like leaf-sprung forks. They started off with mountain bike ones, those weren't very successful, but then when the gravel thing came along, suddenly their forks started to make a huge amount of sense, and then it followed on that they'd make themselves a complete bike, and this is it. It's got a full carbon fibre frame. It uses an up-to-date version of their Grit fork, which is the Grit SL, so you might look, it looks a little bit more shapely than the old fork. It's much easier on the eye. It's also lighter and stiffer. It's got 30mm of travel. That travel is undamped, unsurprisingly, but again, with only 30mm, you don't need to worry about it too much. They are doing 3 builds of bike, and this is the mid-level build. So basically, it's the Force or SRAM Force build. You've got American classic wheels. Essentially, those are kind of mountain bike 29er wheels, which is a good thing because they're plenty tough. You can run them tubeless. They give a good shape to the tyres. Talking of rubber, the bike actually comes with these 40C Maxxis Ramblers. You can run up to a 45C on a 700 wheel. Lauf reckon that because this is like a true kind of race bike or gravel race bike, they're not particularly fussed about people using 650B wheels in it with fatter tyres. I might have a go at trying that later, but Lauf are kind of like pretty unfussed about that, so there we go. Up front, you've got a mountain bike style 15 by 100mm axle, and at the back you've got a 142 by 12. Again, mountain bike wheel size, that means that if you want a replacement wheel set, it should be really easy to find. There's no sort of like weird 12mm front axle. In terms of the kit built onto it, the frame is essentially designed around a single chain ring, so the chain line's sorted for that, and obviously it's using a SRAM Force system, like 10 to 42 tooth cassette. That's a pretty good wide range. Up front, Eastern carbon cranks. Interestingly enough, on their very top of level bike, they do actually use a SRAM ETAP group, but it does limit the amount of or the size of rear tyre that you can use. And I don't really get the point. I think for most people, especially in the UK, this 1x system is probably the way to go, unless you really must have electric magic shifting. Some interesting features of the frame, apart from the strange fork, obviously, are that it uses pretty relaxed geometry. I think up front you've got a 70.5 degree head angle. The top tube on this one is 571mm. This is a medium-sized frame. I'll move into a little bit more detail on that in a mo. You've got a proper BSA threaded bottom bracket. Thank the sweet Lord for that one. So hopefully you won't get any squeaks, and if the bottom bracket's knackered, you can just whiz it out, put a new one in, no fuss. Sizing wise, there are 3 main frame sizes, but what Lauf do is that they basically adjust them by having a short and a long. So basically if you're on the taller side, say their small frame, they do like a longer version, so you have like a longer stem composed, and that basically sorts out your sizing, so it allows them to, like, out of the box fine-tune the fit for you. Apart from the bike itself, one of the really interesting things that Lauf are doing is that they're selling this directly online. They're based in Iceland, but they'll ship it directly from Taiwan, where it's made, to anywhere in the world. Because they're doing this, it allows them to keep the price pretty reasonable. So this is obviously a full carbon fibre bike. It's got a pretty high-end spec on it. This is actually the middling bike, but it costs $4,999 US, which at today's exchange rate is about 3,700 quid, which, considering what you're getting, it's not too bad. I mean, you'd be looking maybe, you know, 4.5 grand if you're buying this sort of bike shop sort of bike, so that's pretty impressive. Of course, the only thing is that basically once you've got the bike, you're pretty much on your own, but I believe that Lauf are looking to do something, so you'll have a bit of after-sales support in the UK, but we'll see how that pans out. So I was lucky enough to go to Iceland, which is where the guys from Lauf hail from, to ride this on the launch, and over there it's really, really impressive. I mean, they've got like mile after mile of these sort of volcanic fire road, and there, I mean, like over sort of like rippled rough surfaces, the fork is actually bloody amazing. It's not damped, that doesn't really matter, because once you're up to speed it just sort of like sucks up all the trail chatter. And the thing that I didn't notice at the time, but I've now noticed having ridden it back in the UK, is just how much that reduces fatigue on a long day out. I mean, recently went and did sort of like, you know, 60k around Wiltshire, and having done sort of similar rides on rigid gravel bikes before, it's like your hands are in pieces by the end. But with this, no, it was really, really good. Again, it's hard to tell just because of the fork, like how much the carbon frame helps, but it certainly doesn't seem to boot me up the arse. 40C rubber seemed to do quite well, though I would say that these Maxxis Rambler tyres seemed a little bit fragile, kind of like cut the casing quite badly on them, and I know people have also had similar problems, so I'm going to try and explore some sort of slightly burlier rubber for British use, because in Britain basically gravel riding is a bit like kind of 1990s mountain biking, so it's riding sort of like kind of all the stuff that's too dull to ride on a modern mountain bike, and all stuff like that. This is actually like loads of fun. The angles are really good, sort of on longer sort of road sections you're in a good position to just get down and sort of crack on with things, but then because it's actually moderately slack and you've got like a pretty decently wide bar, slightly flared, when it comes to downhills it's actually really quite good fun. You're not going to be sort of throwing whips over everything, but you can actually make pretty good progress on pretty technical terrain with this thing. So happily enough, I've got this bike for quite a while now, so I'll be trying to ride it in as many places and maybe in a few different guises. But once we've done enough of that, we'll get back to you with a full review on the site then. Right,